Welcome to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast, brought to you by Phoenix Boats. Now, here are your hosts, Alabama Bass Trail Program Director, Kay Donaldson.
Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail and your host for this week's podcast. And I'm not going to lie, I am fresh off of vacation, and it was a great week in Cancun, Mexico. Shout out to the Royalton Chic there in Cancun. We had a great week there. Just time for a rest, reset. It was a great week, and glad to be back. I think maybe I'm glad to be back. Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure I'm glad to be back. But anyway, it was a great time. We're midway through the season. It was a great time for a reset. You know, by the time we shut down for the season, everything everywhere is so hot. So took a little time between Logan Martin and Wheeler Lake to get a reset in, and it was good. It was good, and I was glad to be able to do that, and kind of glad to be back. I was glad to be able to be home in my bed and have a tournament at Wheeler Lake. And but I'm not going to lie, landing in Nashville at midnight, 2-hour drive home, got home about 2:15, something like that. Back up for a meeting at 9 o'clock on Thursday at the boat ramp by 10:30, worked there till 5. Then Friday morning, had a couple of meetings, had a couple of news interviews to do. Didn't get to the boat ramp till about 11, which is really uncommon for me on a Friday. Normally, I like to be there by 8 or 8:30, but I had scheduled those news interviews and a couple other Zoom calls early, so couldn't really make it out there that early. So was there till about 5 o'clock on Friday, and then, of course, back Saturday morning by 2:30. Boat check started around 3, so there's a lot to do to get live and everything ready. So have to be there quite early. Left there about 6:30 Saturday night. And luckily the champions from Wheeler agreed to do their podcast on Sunday. So supposed to, I work from home. My office is home. My home is home, and having some small renovations done on Monday. So thankful that Phillip and Clint were willing to do this podcast on Sunday so that we could get that over with and not be interrupted on Monday. So, but it made for a long weekend, just getting right back into things. But I don't know that we could have asked for a lake to produce as well as Wheeler produced under the conditions that we saw. It took 24-28 to take the win. Phillip, Harrell, and Clint Gilbertson punched the ticket to the championship, take home their first win on the Alabama Bass Trail. They've been fishing for 5 years, and just to hear them talk, it hasn't been a glorious 5 years. And to the point that they almost did not fish on Saturday. So it's going to be interesting and fun to hear their story. They really were down and out after a catastrophic, as they described it, as a catastrophic finish at Smith Lake. So we're going to talk to them in just a little bit about their tournament, why they almost didn't fish the event, and kind of their progress on the Alabama Bass Trail. But before we get to that, I want to talk about a young team that you probably saw on live coverage, especially at the weigh-in. They came in, they weighed in 22.72 pounds. Ryan Adcock and Jonathan Marsh, they took over the lead, and they kept it for quite some time until Phillip and Clint came in and overtook the lead. But before they lost the lead, they came to me and said, "Miss Kay, we need to speak with you. We need to report a violation." And, I said, okay. And I took them to the side, and they talked to me about what had happened. They weighed in their fish. They went back. This was a non-trailered weigh-in. They took their boat out of the water, sitting in their boat, doing what most anglers do afterwards. They're putting up their rods. They're taking their graphs down, all the things. And as they're sitting in their boat, they hear something in their live well. They open it up, and there is a fish in their live well. Knowing they had just weighed in 5 fish, they knew they had carried a 6 fish around in their live well all day. They self-reported it, and based on our rules, anytime during tournament hours, if you put 6 fish in your live well, that is a violation. And so they self-reported that, and which resulted in a disqualification from this event. It also takes away their daily catch as well as any points that are related to wherever they would have placed, which in this case would have been second. So not only did they give up 224 points, they also gave up $7,500 cash and any bonuses that may have gone along with that. And I don't know what their bonus situation was because I didn't look into it. But I just want to tell you that the integrity that took, the honesty that took is something we don't always see in our sport. And they explained to me that the Alabama Bass Trail is known for the holding our anglers to a different standard, and they felt that it was the right thing to do, and it was. And they took their discipline. They took their DQ. They did not fuss. They did not argue about it. They did ask me to check the rule to see if it was just a penalty or a disqualification, because when they came to me, I said, you realize that that's a disqualification. And they asked me, would I please check the rule? I pulled it up on my phone. I showed it to them. We read it aloud. They accepted the discipline and they walked away. They did not show any anger. They showed frustration with themselves, not with our tournament team, not with me, not with the rule. They understood the rule, they accepted it, and they moved on. They were very heartbroken, as most can imagine. But I was so impressed by their behavior, by the fact that they did turn it in themselves, and how they accepted the punishment and went on about their business. I can tell you that I would like to think that all 450 anglers in our field would do that. Until I'm proven wrong, I will believe that. But I do know in this industry and in the world we live in today, not everyone is as honest, and not everyone has the integrity that these two young men showed. And I'm very impressed by that. And whoever their parents were who raised them, props to you. I wish that I could shake your hand. They were good young men, and I hope that the rest of our field looks at them with the honor and praise that I look at them for, and that John looks at them for. I did explain to him that I needed to talk to John, that this certainly was his call to make, but based on the rule, this is where we were. I walked up, I pulled John from the stage, we talked about it, and I delivered the news to them. So that is how the Alabama Bass Trail works. I did offer them an opportunity to come on the podcast and talk about it. The offer still stands. I've not heard from them, but certainly the offer still stands. I imagine that they were very hurt. I know myself, I was very brokenhearted for them. And I just, said I wasn't going to talk about this, but I am going to talk about it because it makes me mad. To all the people out there who want to be the breaking news or the the savior or the whatever you think you are, that wants to get out here ahead of everyone and tell the story, because there may be smoke and mirrors, or there may be some cover up, or there may be this. There's no cover up here. These two gentlemen were brokenhearted, as I'm sure their families were brokenhearted, as our team for them were brokenhearted. There was never a question of what would be done, but you always hate to have to be that person. Even though they didn't blame me, you hate to be that person. I watched them walk away so brokenhearted. Our team was brokenhearted for them. And when you hear from the team that won and how they fished alongside them all day long and watched them catch them, and how gracious they were in the conditions we were in, you would be brokenhearted for them too. But anyway, there's no smoke and mirrors here. We're pretty honest about things. There are times that we don't disclose everything on the Alabama Bass Trail because need not. But it was handled appropriately. The gentleman responded very appropriately, and we moved on from it. We alerted the people that were next in line to please not leave the area, because we do certain interviews and all of that. We knew early on in the weigh-in this was going to happen, so we did alert the ones that were below them to please stand by, as they always should. I mean, you never know if there's going to be a failed polygraph or whatever. So we always ask the top 3 teams to stick around. So we did alert the team that was below them to please stay around. We would need to talk with them and all of that. So it wasn't that we were out there spreading rumors. We were simply trying to line up the people that we would need to talk to get our stories, to get the wrap up of the TV show and everything done that we needed to get done. So again, the offer still stands for Ryan and Jonathan to come on the podcast to talk about their story, to talk about their day and how magical it was. But unfortunately, how things transpired at the end of the day was very disappointing, and I understand that for them. I just want to say that my heart goes out to them, and our team appreciates their honesty. They appreciate them regarding the rules in a high standard, and I really, really appreciate that. And that being said, there were some people who obviously did not watch the meeting, that obviously totally disregard what our staff says by the way they acted during boat check. So we'll handle that in the next meeting and next briefing that we have. But to those guys who read the rules, that knew the rules, and expected us to enforce the rules, we appreciate that. But I do want to talk a little bit about Wheeler before I get the winners on. If you watch live, and if you didn't, you can always go back to YouTube and go under live and on Alabama Bass Trail TV, click on live and watch the live. Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker put on an absolute clinic. Shad Spawn clinic. It was amazing TV to watch. And if you didn't get to see it live, hopefully you can go back and see it. It was really cool. We saw a lot of fish catches, not just with that team. We saw John Kellett, Zeke Gossett catch fish. We saw quite a few teams on there catch fish. We saw Matt Ferguson and Craig Grubbs, your winners from Smith Lake, catch fish. We saw them early in the morning, about 8 o'clock, had 16 pounds in the boat. We're never really able to upgrade from that, but we saw a lot of fish catches. But I want to talk a little bit about Wheeler Lake. Of course, it took 24-28 to win. It took almost 15 pounds, I think 1487, to get a check in 40th place. And we had a 770 big fish. I often hear how Wheeler Lake is just the little sister to Gunnersville, and that we'll accept that. We'll accept that. But I went back and I pulled, and you can just look at my little chicken scratch here. But I went back and pulled the last 3 bait reports from 2022, 2023, and 2024 for Wheeler Lake. And I'll go in order. So for the total fish caught in 2022 was 911, 2023 817, and 2024 we had 899. Now, May 2022, June 2023, and April of 2024. So rather close. We had in 2022 we had 172 limits. 2023, we had 150 limits, and 2024, we had 157 limits, 157 limits. Largemouth, 851. 2023, we had 712, and in 2024, we had 740 largemouth. Smallmouth in 2022, we had 43. 2023, we had 67, and 2024, we had 94. Spotted bass in 2022, we had 17. In 2023, we had 38. And in 2024, we had 65. Big fish in 2022 was 625. 2023, it was 537. And this year, it was 7.70. The total weight for the tournaments in 2022 was 2244. In 2023 was 1923. And in 2024 was 2186. The other thing that I want to point out is the winning weight. In 2022, the winning weight was 24.27. In 2023, it was 23.23. How odd is that? And then in this tournament, it was 24.28. Those are probably some of the most consistent numbers that you will see on the Alabama Bass Trail. Short of Logan Martin and Lake Martin with the number of limits. On the Tennessee River, I would almost bet you to say that 3/4 or better of the field limiting out, 3/4 of the field or better limit out. Considering we had 217 teams fish on Saturday. That's pretty good numbers, guys. And just looking at Saturday's totals, 199 weighed in one or more fish on the Tennessee River, post spawn, 25 to 30 mile an hour winds. I'm going to say Wheeler Lake showed out. If you disagree with me, feel free to hit me up in the comments. Feel free to inbox me on social media, or hey, email me, k@alabamabastrail.org. And for the guy on social media who wanted to go off at me and say that we had a team blocking a bridge, wouldn't let anybody else fish there, we covered that team on live. There was plenty of people going in and out of that bridge when we were there. And he also informed me that Wheeler Lake had a 14 to 21 inch slot limit, and I was allowing people to weigh in fish under the slot limit. I kindly emailed him a link to the regulations in the state of Alabama, and he proceeded to send me a photo of a fish that our people couldn't catch. I told him registration opens August the 15th if he'd like to put his money up and come fish against us. So to him, and I won't call his name because he don't need any glory. He knows who he is. Maybe he's listening, but we hope to see you on August the 15th in our registration. So anyway, I did want to brag on Chris and Caden Ackery. They had the 7.70 big fish. They were able to show us that on camera, and appreciate them being willing to do that. I'm going to save this next segment and talk about the points race and all of that in the last segment after we talk with the winners. I went a little long there and didn't really mean to. Got to talking about those young guys, and it just sends something through me when I got to see what I saw. And I'll get to see a lot of people over the course of the next few weeks, I'm sure. Armchair quarterback their decision, and armchair quarterback my decision, and mine and John's decision. And that'll be fun. I just hope that everybody will keep in mind of what it takes to do what we do. And for 30 minutes on TV, it looks real fun. But you're not just dealing with fishermen, you're dealing with their families and how they're treated and how they are perceived afterwards. You're worried about how our sponsors will perceive what you do. But at the end of the day, right is right and wrong is wrong. And we did what's right, and so did those young men. So props to them. I do hope they will accept my invitation and come and be on the podcast with me in the next week or so. So hopefully they'll do that. But anyway, we are going to go ahead and get our guest on. That is Phillip, Harrell, and Clint Gilbertson. They are your 2024 Wheeler Lake champions, punching their ticket to Lay Lake later on this year, taking home over $15,000 and the title of the Wheeler Lake champs. So we'll be back in just a moment on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Stay tuned. You're going to want to, promise.
Big banks only care about one thing: ROI. So when it comes to your small business, you can expect a big no. At AmFirst, we don't just invest in your business. We invest in you and your goals. With great rates on loans, lines of credit to help you grow, and business checking accounts. Because at AmFirst, business is personal.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And as I promised you in the first segment, we do have our winners. First-time winners on the Alabama Bass Trail, Phillip, Harrell, and Clint Gilbertson. Guys, welcome to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast.
Hey, Kay, thanks for having us.
Hello, it's good to be here.
Thanks.
Good, good, good. Hey, one way to certainly get on the Alabama Bass Trail podcast is to win a tournament, and you guys did in a big way on Wheeler Lake yesterday.
Yeah, awkward pause. Don't know if Phil's going first or me, but yeah, thank you. We really did have a good day. Practice went pretty bad, and so we're thankful with the way it turned out for sure.
Well, I want to talk to you a little bit about that because you mentioned to me, Clint, you mentioned to me on the way to take the polygraph that y'all almost didn't fish this event. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was. We kind of went to sleep, with our head hung low. Had a bad practice, and just jokingly on the way to the tournament, I was like, I just said, hey, why don't we just turn around and go fish Guntersville, where we might have a chance to have some fun and catch some fish, and so we really weren't expecting to do a whole lot. We had some spots that we left alone, and came up with a game plan, and then talked about the game plan on the way there, and decided to hit an area that we were really familiar with. I think like out of the previous years, 3 out of the 4 previous years, we started there just because we can hit several different patterns in one little area and try to figure something out, because we really hadn't figured it. We didn't have much to run to, and the lake started to get smaller and smaller with the wind and the dam not working, and we noticed that the males were staying on the beds, and the bigger fish were moving off, so it just seemed like the lake just kept getting smaller and smaller. So we figured we'd go there and get some clues, and boy, we got a good one.
Yeah, I would say so. Y'all were boat number 90. Let me ask you one thing. I want to ask this to Phillip because he mentioned this when we were talking during the wrap up of the TV show. You guys have fished the trail for 5 years. Phillip, talk about the progression of being on the trail and how y'all kind of have moved up each year.
Yeah, so I actually went back and looked at it this morning. The first year that he and I fished together, we finished 174th. Neither one of us were happy with that. We thought we were better than that. I'd fished the trail 2 years before, and we had done reasonably well. But Clint's more of a deep fisherman. I'm more shallow, and we hadn't really fished a lot of tournaments together. So we had some mishaps with, oddly enough, stuff like netting and stuff like that. And I mean, it got to the point where we said, we're going to go out and fish on Guntersville one afternoon, and we're just going to practice netting fish.
Yeah.
And we just had to get used to each other. And he had never fished a lot of the Coosa stuff. And it was getting familiar with different bodies of water, targeting spots and different species. And Smith Lake obviously was new to him. And so we started out at 174th, second year 154th, 2022 106th, and last year we bumped up to 70th and finally qualified for the championship.
Yeah, and and this year, punch your ticket early on in the season. I mean, taking a win, you automatically qualified. So you guys, we talked about this. What do you do, Clint? What's your everyday job?
I work and support Army Aviation, and that's actually where I got to know Phil. He supported some Army Aviation as well.
Okay.
It's pretty demanding job. I got a really good team that picks up the slack when I'm out, and sometimes with that job I have to travel a lot, so there's a lot of shuffling, getting people to cover the day-to-day work and the extra time that we need for just tournaments. You can't go out there blind and compete with these guys in the ABT. They're just way too good, and so we try to maximize the amount of time we get on the water, and some of that just comes from the guys at work that support you every day. So it's kind of a cool deal, cool situation.
Well, I knew y'all we talked about that that these guys are ultra competitive and you have to put in your time, but this is what most people call their amateur trail. It's the guys that are working every day and all of that, but you can't just come out here on Saturday and say, I'm going to go fish the Alabama Bass Trail. You really do have to put in your time. I do want to talk a little bit about your day, but I know that y'all were very familiar with the team that I've talked about in the opening of the show, Ryan Adcock and Jonathan Marsh. You guys fish next to them all day. Clint, talk a little bit about how that day went.
So we both landed on an area that, like I said earlier, that we're familiar with. So I pulled down in a spot because I figured it'd get a little crowded, and then as people moved around and jockeyed around for position a little bit, we moved up about another 10 yards, and we just power pulled down where we could fish I guess it was a drain. It really wasn't a creek, but it was a drain, and it had some grass in it. And Phil found that the shad were a little bit thicker there than it was in other places where he found. So we just felt like, once we saw the shad coming, that we just dig in right there. So we could throw down a ditch and then throw down a long point, and then we could also hit the tip of a little island. So we just kind of bunkered down there, put the poles down, and in the process of catching a few fish, the wind got up and kind of blew me off. The power poles let go, and before I knew it, I was really fishing a lot closer to Ryan and his partner than I had planned. Phil caught it. He's like, "Hey man, what's going on here?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness!" So apologized to the fellas, and they were extremely polite and understanding. And when we locked down, we made sure that they had plenty of room, and we just watched them put a clinic on. They caught fish after fish after fish, and we thought we were watching them, run away with the tournament, right in front of us, because they really shelled them, and they put on a good show. And so we were in. We didn't have to holler to talk to each other. We had to talk pretty loud, but we had a few conversations, and just the short time that we were there, we could tell that they were first class. It was first class people. So we shared names and shared the spot, and it was kind of a good moment to know that the competitors out there were just good and classy people.
That's right, Phillip. You mentioned to me too that y'all had that feeling when you left the water that they were good people, and talk about how you felt when I had to break the news to you.
Yeah, I was actually upset about that. The rules are the rules, but the fact that these guys could have drove away and walked away with a second place check, that you can't buy integrity. So that's bigger than the paycheck. And like I told Clint, what meant more to me about winning this thing was getting the blue plaque than getting the money. And that sounds crazy, but that's something I'm pretty freaking excited about. I could stand to see that plaque in my coffin someday. But no, those guys, they were so cool out on the water, and they were literally sitting on the area where we wanted to have the boat, but they were fishing out on a hump versus we would have been throwing back in that drain that he was talking about. But I think we did the right thing. We stayed off of them. We didn't cast on their water. A lot of guys would throw baits back towards your boat to let you know you're getting too close. But, we talked. Everybody was cool. There was actually another boat out there on the opposite side, and they were pretty much in the same boat. And it was everything that I think the tournament trail is supposed, stands for.
Right.
But then a little bit further back in this drain, Green and Green were over there fishing.
Yeah.
And, people were being respectful of the area that they were casting, because you kind of had to run through what they were fishing to get back there.
Mm-hmm.
And, they'd say, "Hey, if you don't mind, can you go around the outer edge?" And we were over on the outer edge fishing the opposite bank, and I kept seeing something splash, close to the boat. And he wasn't, trying to make a statement or anything, but my God, he was making a 75-yard cast. And I'm like, is that fish blowing up over here, or is that your bait? And he said, "No, that's my bait." And I said, "Are we in your way?" He said, "No, you're good." And it was all good. It was everything, a tournament trail is supposed to be.
See, that makes my heart happy because I knew that the top 3 bags came from that one area. After we talked to Delano and Delano Greek Jr., we talked to y'all. We had already interviewed Ryan and Jonathan after they weighed in. So I kind of knew all 3 of those bags came from the same area. And to hear you talk about how good the sportsmanship was, because this right now, and I know it's because we've become a global sport with the social media and everything that's going on, but we hear so much negative about our sport, whether it's on the Elite Series, the BPT, snagging fish, getting waypoints and all that. To hear something so positive out of something that was so terrible for these 2 young men just makes me feel like that our anglers, we're only as good as our rules, our tournament team, and our anglers. And that tells me that something's going right on the Alabama Bass Trail. I'm not saying we're perfect. Lord knows we're not, but you guys made us look so good this week. And Jonathan and Ryan and their sadness made our trail stand out as far as I'm concerned. I totally believe that. Totally believe that. But I do want to talk about your day because y'all did better than anyone else. And I was looking at the weights, and had Ryan and Jonathan's weight stood, y'all would have still won by over just a little bit, about 2 pounds. But with their weight thrown out, you won with almost 4 pounds, 3 3/4 pound lead over the rest of the field. So let's talk about your day. You were boat number 90. And when you got there, I'm sure Ryan and Jonathan were already there. They were boat number 50. Was that the case?
Yes.
Okay. All right. How far from the ramp did you have to run?
I would say it was a short run.
Okay.
Probably 5-10 minutes
Okay.
tops.
All right. How long was the stretch of area or the bank that you were going? How long was that stretch?
Pretty much all of our fish came in I'd say about a 300-yard circumference.
Okay.
Majority of the day, we were pulled down in one spot, pan casting in different directions. But then we had two big coals that we had to work a little bit harder for once the shad spawn dried up. And I think that was the difference between what Jonathan and Ryan did. I think before those first calls, we probably would have been in about the 20-pound range, give or take. And then I think the bold move of the day was getting our last 2 kicker fish off of the shad spawn. So that's
So what time do you think what time did the shad spawn start, and how long did you think it lasted?
I want to say we had shad following us back for probably about a half an hour or so after the bass had already stopped. I think the bass just pretty much got full and quit because the shad spawn was still going on up until about 8:30 or 9. But bites were few and far. But we didn't really get a ton of bites. We just got bigger bites, so it wasn't like we had a whole lot of bites to go by anyways. But you could see the shad were getting fewer and fewer, and then finally once the sun got up, no shad and then no bite. So we knew we had to adjust.
Okay. So you're fishing shad spawns, so you're fishing relatively shallow?
Yeah, we were I think majority not exactly shallow by what typical Wheeler shallow would be. I'd say we're in hitting 4 to 5 foot range probably for the majority of our bites. And then we did get one shallow on the backside of a bar that was a windbreak, and then after that I'd say we moved out to about 6 or 8 feet deep to get our last call.
All right. Phillip, talk to me about what kind of baits you guys were using and any color choices that might be key.
Yeah, so I had a square bill tied on. I'd caught a big smallmouth on a bluff transition last weekend. Had it on the deck, and where we had the pole down originally, we were kind of limited in throwing up that drain, and it kind of had a rocky bottom. So, it's like 3 to 4 foot. I was bouncing the bottom a little bit with that square bill. Hooked our biggest fit. Well, at the time, it, seemed like a big fish. It was about 5 pounds. And I told Clint when we caught it, I said, dude, that right there, that's bigger than anything we've caught in the last 2 days combined. We might as well go because it can't get any better. And then Ryan and Jonathan were throwing spinner baits, and I mean they put on a clinic for about 20 minutes. And I'm more of a chatterbait person, and Clint likes to throw spinner bait, so he started throwing a spinner bait, and he was getting bit. And I of course threw a spinner bait a little bit, but I wasn't catching them like they were. And let me see. I think kind of noticed when the sun got up a little bit, the water was a little bit cleaner than what we expected. And I had a white chatterbait tied on, and I changed that to green pumpkin for a little bit more natural look.
Mm-hmm.
And the sun got up and the wind was blowing, and I casted to a current break and caught probably our biggest or second biggest fish. And the bite kind of slowed down. Of course, we had a guy in a Ranger come right through the area everybody was fishing in and pretty much killed it for a little while. And we left there and we went to flip a little bit, and we didn't get bit at all. And we debated where to go. And Clint mentioned, hey, let's go out and fish this stump row on the ledge. And I was kind of like, come on, man. We got to do better than that, because I really hate fishing deep. But he's good at that. So we talked about it. I said, look, we've got a good bag. I don't know how much better we can do, but we know one place where there's good fish. Let's go back there and work over some other elements of the area. So we went back, and I think I mentioned on the stage, one of my coworkers makes the Big G Tackle custom swim baits, and he's been giving me samples and packs of them for 2 or 3 years, and said, hey, if you ever do good on the ABT, please mention it. Well, that's the swim bait that he caught that kicker fish on late in the day. And I mean, there's so much detail in that swim bait, and everybody makes them, but this is one that's made here locally. The guy's, obviously local. He doesn't outsource the work to China. He hand pours them, and they're high quality. They last, and I can't say enough good things about them.
Awesome. How deep were you fishing that swim bait?
There was a ditch there, and I would say it had a little bit of mix of grass and shells, and so it was deep enough that the grass was getting choked out a little bit. So I think we were dragging shells in about 7 to 8 feet of water out there. And the funny thing about that swim bait is the night before, Phil and I were tying up lures, and I took that one and set it on the deck, and I said right here's our kicker fish, and it sat there all day. And we caught several times during the day. We caught shad, and I was looking at the shad, and I was like, it kind of looks like they got 4 eyes. And then we were sitting here needing this kicker fish, and I looked down at my bait. I had an underspin on it, and I was like, oh, that thing looks like it's got 4 eyes. So I planned on fishing it all along, and it's just like a light came on. I threw it, and because I'd seen Green and Green have so much patience, just making cast after cast after cast, and having some results with it, we stayed on that ditch and just burned it for about an hour, and caught that fish. And then we probably casted about another 45 minutes down it, watching the clock tick away until we got to weigh in, and then came in with a little bit of time, so we want to make sure we didn't have any boat.
Right. It is all about managing all of those things, especially when the wind was so rough. That was my next question. Were you protected from the wind where you were?
Not very. No.
Okay.
At first, when we first pulled down, the wind wasn't as bad, and then the wind started coming and pushing us out. In fact, at one point when the spinner bite got a little bit better and we were able to catch 2 or 3 fish, the wind, I think, actually helped the bite in the area that we were at. We can't see the bait as.
Okay, you mentioned Ryan and Jonathan was around you. You could see Delano Green Jr. and yourself. Was there a lot of traffic around you, or did y'all have that area kind of to yourself?
The neat thing about it was that it's kind of like what Phil said, is the memory that I have is everybody's respect for space. You know, we moved in there, we pulled down every inch of my body. I was getting sick watching them play on the clinic, but that was their fish, and eventually, I think what happened is that the fish started on an island where they were, and then they started pushing the bait deeper and deeper and deeper, and so there was a boat a good distance in 3 corners of this area, and everybody respected everybody's position. But through the day, people would come and go, and we finally figured out that you could fish here all day and not catch a fish if you were not throwing a moving bait. So moving bait was the trick in that area.
Wow, that's great. That's great. What time, Phillip, did y'all have the limit that you weighed in on Saturday? What time do you think, what time of the day was that?
Probably 9 o'clock.
Wow. That's good. But you caught fish all day, or is that when it shut off?
No, we caught 8 total fish all day.
Okay.
And Clint, correct me if I'm wrong, because I remember telling you that tournament was going to be won by 8 o'clock, and I figured it would be somebody on the flats because everybody always finds a shell bed or something, or you get a talk miracle or something out there. And honestly, we figured we were top 10, but we had no idea we were in contention to win the whole day.
Wow. What was the mood like when you 9 o'clock and you've got about 23, 24 pounds in the boat. What was the mood like in the boat? Way different from Smith, I gather.
I guess I'll say it so I don't get told on, but that's why he's laughing. I don't think my adrenaline has ever been, I'm kind of a nervous person anyways. I don't think my adrenaline's been up that high since playing sports. But at one point I was just shaking so bad it was getting hard to tie lures. Culling was just a nightmare. My scale was glitchy and it was shutting off. And in the process of culling, which I'm not a rookie yet, I can do it, but I would weigh a fish and unclip it for some reason. I'd take the clip off the wrong end, so my brain just wasn't clicking. Just because everything going, the excitement of the day, but we knew we still had work to do, and I think a lot of that was just because we knew how hard of a day it was going to be, and so we knew it was big for us. Our goal, because we work and realistically we know the level of competition that we're fishing against. Our goal really for the season was to finish the year higher than the previous year, and hopefully get top 20 or maybe a top 10. But we had never ever thought, at least I didn't allow myself to think that first place was in contention, especially on this one the way practice went.
Well, let me ask you something, because you guys are kind of the guys that fly under the radar. I don't see you a lot at the boat ramps, or if I do, you're not one that'll just run up to me and talk to me and all of that. So what's it been like since you won yesterday? Have you had some phone calls or text messages or congratulations? I know as we were walking to the camper to do your polygraph, guy stopped you and shook your hand and congratulated you. So how's that been for both of you?
I'll let Phil go first on this one.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. The phone's been blowing up. I'm originally from Virginia. Some of the guys I used to fish with back there, one of the guys won the ABT equivalent in Virginia up there, and he keeps up with it quite a bit. And he had actually called me Thursday when I was out practicing, and Clint and I were trying to decide. We went in separate boats, and he was going to do his deep shell bed thing, and I was going to find him in the dirt. I was convinced of it. And he called me at 11 o'clock, and I'm sitting there freaking miserable. And I'm like, dude, I got to catch fish because Clint's going to take me out deep if I don't find them. And he called me up, and Zach Taylor
Right.
texted me this morning. Just some of the people that we know on the tour and a bunch of people we work with and stuff.
Good.
It's been pretty cool.
Cool. Clint, how about you?
Yeah, some of the same. We fished the Army Bass Club, the Army Cargo Bass Club, and some of those guys have reached out, and that's pretty neat because we're we started out, we know we're over our head in the ABT, and so it's kind of neat, following our friends. So we follow them when they're in the casting and catching and some of the bigger tournaments, the ABTs, the big bass tours, and and so it's kind of neat when your peer group reaches out. But then also, I kind of reflected on, some of the lessons learned from friends and peers, that led to us having this day, like, knowing, swap your spinner baits out, get this particular kind of feel, and the shad spawn, it's just, I've got some really friends that are just really good at capitalizing on spinnerbait bites during the shad spawn. That taught me a lot. So it's just reflecting on the friends, and then of course, my family, my support group. My wife was, we came in the driveway, and she did a cheer for us, and took a bunch of pictures, and so yeah, it's a neat thing, and the whole family reached out, because it really is, it takes a family to support a fisherman. We're out there, we miss birthdays, after fishing or practicing, from sun up to sundown, or coming in on tournament day, that recliner monster gets us. And my wife knows that that's not going to be date night, and she supports me, and that's a neat thing too, that kind of gets forgotten, is the people that support you from home have their part in this too.
That is so true. And I love to hear those stories. We have several of the wives that'll come out to the weigh-ins, and some come during their practice, and I see them like at restaurants at lunch and stuff like that. But it really is a support system. They always say that it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a village to raise a fisherman too. I mean, because it really is taking care of the things while you're at practice, and then realizing that you're not going to be your best when you came in. You were probably way excited, but once the adrenaline calms down, if you're like me, at 8:45 last night when I got out of the shower, all I wanted to do was collapse. I just wanted to go to bed and rethink about this tomorrow morning. I was zonked for sure.
That's exactly how it goes. You almost, as an angler, we don't stop to eat. We don't stop to drink. I think I may have drank one bottle of water all day, because that just takes away from a cast that you can make. And then, you almost feel like you've run a marathon. I know it's not the equivalent physically, but then your brain doesn't shut off. You're adjusting for the waves, the wind, the fresh air, the sunshine, taking in the scenery. And then by the time you get home, it's just like, you're done. And this support system, people have to be understanding, because it just doesn't, it seems like, you've been out there relaxing all day, but in actuality, it is kind of, it's taxing on you mentally and physically. So a good support group is important.
It certainly is. It certainly is. I want to give each of you a chance. If there's something else you'd like to talk about, whether it's Wheeler, whether it's anything else that you'd like to talk about ABT wise, before we wrap this thing up. Phillip, you got anything else you'd like to say?
No, I just appreciate the fact that the state of Alabama promoted something like the ABT. It's very well run. It's organized. There's no needs that go unnoticed. The rules are firm, and obviously there's some high character people involved in it. And I think both of us are very appreciative of just being able to fish the ABT like Clint said, we're both lucky in the sense of the support systems we have at home. And, you know, this is something away from our jobs, and we don't have to do it for a living, and it just makes life a lot more enjoyable.
Good. Clint?
Yeah, pretty much everything Phil said, and you know, I'll add too. It's a neat format that allows, you know, me, you know, I like to compete. Phil used to be a real competitive baseball player, but allows people like you know, us in our, you know, we're in our 50s now, and we can still get out there and compete. And the drone is flying, the anthem's going, the music's going, the boats are filing out, and it's just a really neat experience that, you know, everybody should go. And then, you know, you've got, you know, 225 boats racing to a spot. Each one is, you know, a master at their sport. These guys are so good, you know, and you can by how many go into the elites out of this club, how good they are. So it's just neat to be able to compete at a level in such a well-run event. The boats come out. It's fair. The tough decisions are made. Like what happened to Ryan was, you know, it's a rule. It's a horrible thing that happened, but you have to be consistent with that. And there's tough decisions that are made, but they're made, you know, consistent, and that upholds the integrity of the league. You know, we hate that it happened, and especially when he's self-reported like that. So but the integrity it's just the tribute of the integrity of the trail all together. But yeah, we're just thankful for the ABT and, you know, the anglers that we compete against. It's just great.
Well, we certainly appreciate that. Y'all have been a great interview. Thank you for sharing as much of what you did. Some guys like to keep things under the vest, and I appreciate that. You guys have punched your ticket to the championship at Lay Lake. You can go ahead and make your reservations and all the things and take the time off and all of that. Neely Henry is next. How do you feel about that? You want to give it some time before you have to talk about Neely Henry?
Neely Henry's got us. We've had good practice, and we've had some bad luck there. We've had some really good practices, and then had boat trouble on tournament day. So we kind of got mixed feelings with it. We feel like we're capable there, but we're probably going to put in a little bit extra time. We kind of know what we got to do. But we were also talking before this, that one of the cool things is, you know, we don't have to worry about points. Like you said, we're in the finals, so we're just going to go out and throw bigger baits and try bigger patterns for bigger fish, and just go out and have fun. And it's kind of cool that some of the, you know, we struggled to make the top 75 last year, so we got 2 tournaments to just go out with a little less pressure and just go out, have fun, and swing for the fences.
That's good. That's a good feeling. Well, congratulations on your win. And thank you so much for accommodating me today and doing the podcast today. Since I'm having some home renovation done tomorrow, I certainly appreciate that. Y'all have been a great interview, and I am honored to have you guys fish the Alabama Bass Trail. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you guys at Neely Henry if I don't see you before.
All right. Thanks, Kay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There you have it, guys. The winners of the Alabama Bass Trail North Division on Wheeler Lake. They did it in commanding style. And from what I can understand, very nice grace, great sportsmanship that was shared out on the water. That's all you can ask for from your competitors. But we're going to be taking a little short break right now. We'll be back in just a moment with the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Stay tuned.
You let me see. Things you let me see.
Welcome back to the third segment, the final segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. What great champions, what great men, great integrity. I wanted everyone to hear that story. I got to hear it Saturday at the boat ramp about how they fished next to Ryan and Jonathan and close to Delano Green Jr. We hear so much negative in our sport, and I wanted you to hear that. What great guys. I am excited for them as I'm excited for our trail that we have such great competitors. A couple things I wanted to talk about after the Wheeler Lake tournament. I took a little heat kind of talking about how Damian Willis and Tyler Kiker were going to have to catch him at Wheeler. And then I felt like that tournament was going to be the tournament that kind of set the stage going in for the Angler of the Year race. And not that Neely Henry won't be important, because it will. Probably as a reset, because I felt like that Ryan and Anaya had a little bit of an advantage on Wheeler, even though Tyler and Damian have won there before. I felt like that Ryan and Fisher had an advantage. I feel like Tyler and Damian may have an advantage going into Neely Henry. That's where Damian lives. They fished a lot of tournaments there. I think that this is where you're going to see it take a stand, because I think certainly Gunnersville lines up with Fisher and Naya really well. So I think, I did take a lot of heat from Damian over that, saying they were going to have to catch him. And they did. They did have to catch him. But it did shake things up. Fisher and Ryan and Naya take over the Angler of the Year race. They have, I want to say, an 11-point lead over Justin Bussey and Ben Webb, their second year on the Alabama Bass Trail. They finished in the top 9 last year. They're in the top 9 right now. They're in second place, 11 points behind. And then Damian Willis, Tyler Kiker, 18 points behind in third place. So, Damian says he doesn't listen to the podcast, but he has people tell him about the podcast. There's some heat. 18 points is not out of the question. It's not out of the realm of possibility that they could take back over the lead. But certainly anyone inside that top 9 going into Gunnersville will have a camera and a tracker, and we'll watch it all go down on live. So I'm looking forward to that. These next 2 tournaments, guys, are really, really going to be fun to watch with the points race so tight and those sitting just outside in that 20th area. I think it's going to be a really, really fun time. You see Cole and Donnie Wade go to Gunnersville in June, and they're sitting like in 20th. Let me take a look at that. Make sure I'm telling you exactly correct here. They're sitting in 20th. That could be really interesting. And looking down through here, you've got Adam Bain, Chris Colley going to Neely Henry. They probably won more money on Neely Henry than most of the people in this tournament. Lance Whitaker, Lance Walker, Cole Walker. Neely Henry's not really going to play into their wheelhouse, but then you go to Gunnersville. They're sitting in 13th. Stephen McAvoy, Josh Butts, Neely Henry's their home lake, and they've won twice on Gunnersville. So they're sitting in 11th. Zeke Gossett, John Kellett, they're sitting in 10th. Neely Henry's John's home lake. You got to know that they're looking forward to that. So this points race, crazy how good that's going to be. Brett Harrell, Tyler Smart. I mean, it's crazy. This is going to be fun to watch these last 2 tournaments. But I'm gonna take a hiatus off of the North Division right now. I mean, it was a good tournament. We got 2 more left. It's going to be a fun year. Getting these knocked out. Next, of course, though, we have to go down to the Alabama River. So we'll be doing that soon. I did want to also talk about an announcement that we've got coming up. I'm trying to flip through my notes here so I don't miss anything. Mark it down. Friday, May 3rd. Friday, May the 3rd. 10 a.m. 2025 Alabama Bass Trail schedule will be announced. The 5 North tournaments, 5 South tournaments, and the championship all will be announced. Couple things to remember. Entry fees stayed the same, $1,600 per team per division. You can pay the $600 non-refundable deposit or the $1,600 paid in full. Whenever you get ready to register. As always, August 1st through the 14th will be priority registration for current ABT members. And then new team registration opens up August the 15th at 5:30 a.m. So schedule announcement, May 3rd, 10 a.m. New team registration, August the 15th at 5:30 a.m. check out all the social media channels, check out the website. It'll be all there. We'll be sharing it on all the other social medias like Central Alabama, North Alabama, South Alabama, tournament announcements. We'll do our very best to get it out to everybody as soon as possible. We'll send an email out to all the current teams that are fishing the ABT so they have it. They'll get it the same time it goes public to everyone else, so nobody gets priority notification. The only people that know the schedule are John, Daniel, myself, and the people that book the tournaments with the city. So that's the only people that know it, and the lady who writes the press release. So she knows it as well. All right. So that all takes place this Friday, May 3rd. Just a little FYI, I'm going to be traveling a tremendous amount over the next 30 days. Hopefully I'll be able to get podcast in while traveling. But I will be traveling a significant amount through the month of May, both business and personal. I have a Wednesday meeting in Montgomery, Alabama, a legislative event down there. And then I will be traveling to Boca Raton, Florida to watch Jake play baseball as his season and career seems to be coming to an end. So in leading into that, I will go ahead and give you a UAB baseball update. And it's simply this: we win some, we lose some. We win some big, we lose some big. We do have two very key wins under our belt this year. We did defeat Alabama a couple weeks ago, and we did defeat Jacksonville State University last week. We have a midweek game this week, and then we travel to Boca Raton to take on Florida Atlantic. So I think our record is like 18-22, nothing spectacular, not exactly how we saw this season going, but maybe we can pull off a win, win the series this weekend, then repeat and go down and win in Tampa and make the tournament at the end of the month. But we'll see how that all goes. Jake is suffering from a very bad bruised thumb. If it's not broken, I will be surprised. I got that picture this morning, so hopefully it's not broken, but prayers that he'll recover. But anyway, we will be traveling a lot over the next 30 days. So John and I will stay in tune. John is not traveling, but we'll be staying up on text messages and emails the best we can. But we are preparing for the fourth stop of the South Division. That will be at the Alabama River. Can Josh Chappell and Paul Davis, the winners from the last tournament at Logan Martin, they're 17th in the points. Can they make their way into that top 9? I know that's going to be on their minds. And then we'll take a closer look at the points race when we get closer to that tournament. But a lot of moving and shaking. The Alabama River, we've seen 80-point shifts in the points race after the Alabama River. Brian Adams and Ryan Lloyd won there last year. You got to know that that's circled on their calendar for this year. So looking forward to that. But that gives you everything you need to know on the Alabama Bass Trail and on UAB baseball. I do appreciate everyone giving me some time last week as I spent some time vacationing. It was certainly needed. Appreciate John and Daniel for picking up the slack for me last week, and looking forward to closing out this season. But before that, we got 4 more tournaments and a lot of moving and shaking to do. I hope you'll spend the time, get out and enjoy the great state of Alabama. Enjoy, if you're not from the great state of Alabama, get out and enjoy the outdoors in your hometown. Just appreciate what God's given us. But until then, everyone, God bless. Good fishing. Go Blazers. And as Big Daddy always said, get outdoors. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabasstrail.org.